So, what is up, Patreon? Welcome to the very first breakdown of my track Blame. And I'm just really happy that you have subbed to the Patreon, and I will try my best to bring you content which will be beneficial for you. So, we'll go on section by section in this whole thing, from the starting to the verse to the chorus build, and I'll explain the elements as they go on. All right, if you have any questions, you can just comment down and I will try my best to answer them for you. First, let me just show you how the starting of the verse sounds.
I'm sorry now that I failed. I should have told you the truth.
So there's the verse, and it all starts with the star carp. So this is essentially a sample that I got from somewhere, and then I half timed it and stretched it out so that it sounds very worn out and very dark. And on this, I have this EQ, and I'm just removing some of these frequencies to make space for the vocals. And then I'm using this plugin called Codec, and I'm automating the loss parameter. It's a free plugin, by the way. And I'm automating this loss parameter over here so that it sounds very grungy and worn out. Just like that. So yeah, it just gives a cool vibe to it, and you can try it because I love glitchy sounds. Then I'm having this same thing, which is just reversed. So yeah, it just transitions from the starting to the verse very nicely. Then I have this Reese over here, and this is actually the second project. The actual production was done in the previous project. So I have this Reese over here. Don't worry, I'll show you how to make respaces afterwards. Then I have these bells over here, and they sound like this. Such a nice and eerie feeling to them. And actually, how I made them, that's really interesting. So check it out. This is how they sound dry. Then I added an EQ, just cutting off the lows. Then I added this erosion with this sine and the frequency there and the amount to about 13. So it gives that high end. Yeah, it just gives it a little bit of high end. And then I'm using the OTT to bring that high end. So yeah, if you don't have enough high end, you can use the combination of erosion and OTT. So yeah, this is how you can add high end to your sounds if you're lacking. Then I have another EQ boosting some of these frequencies to give it more tonality. Then I have this auto pan with the phase at 180 and the amount at 69 to give it that left right feel so that it doesn't clash with the vocals. Then I have this ambience over here, and it sounds like this. It's really nice and dark to just set the whole vibe and mood of the track. Then I have this reverse sample, and also this reversed ad-lib, which is essentially just this ad-lib, just reversed, and sounds like this. So it's pan to the left, and this one is pan to the right. So you can see the automation over here, pan to the right and pan to the left. Then we have these textures. These are just little things that make your sections interesting. I have this downlifter to act as a transition. And this is how the whole instrumental sounds without the vocals. really nice and dark on its own, but it's the vocals that actually fill the whole thing. So the vocals are actually from a sample pack. So if I remove all the effects, this is how they sound straight out of the sample pack.
I'm sorry, now that I failed.
Then I'm using this effect track and I have two chains, which is a dry chain and a low octave chain.
I'm sorry.
And it's just used in the build to give it that low octave feel. This is the dry chain. This is the low octave. So it just makes it fuller in the build section, as you can hear. And I'm using these two washout tracks from Virtual Riot to give it that flutter effect. So without it sounds like this. And to give it that civil effect, I'm using these two wash tracks. They sound like this. So good. Now I'm using effect tracks from Virtual Riot because it's easier. You can just make this effect on your own by just using a reverb and an auto pan. It's just very easy. Then I'm using Rift over here to give it that distortion, and I'm automating this distortion in some sections. Yeah, just like here. And what it's doing, it's helping me translate from the chorus to the build, but it just gets super louder. So I'm using this utility and automating the gain so that it becomes quieter. Yeah, I'm taking it down really like -8 dBs to control the vocal. Then I'm using this Redux and automating it in some parameters. I think it's being automated in the second build. Yeah, you can see that it's been automating it here. And yeah, I'll show you afterwards what it's important. Just focus here for now. I'm using telephone vocals again for the second build and the pedal distortion again for the second build. This is just another reverse from the vocal. Let's see how you can make that. So this is how it sounds dry. Then I'm adding a little bit of erosion. To give the top sizzle, I'm boosting that top sizzle using an EQ. And I'm using another EQ to take down some of the muddy frequencies, and I'm again using OTT to bring out the top end. It's really helpful. Then I'm using Little Plate, which is a plate reverb from Sound Toys, and giving a little bit of reverb to it to just fit into the scene very nicely. And I'm using Auto Pen to actually give it that effect. I'm automating the rate as well. Then I have these ad lib. Now I showed in a reel how to make ad libs like this, but let's just go in further detail on how you can exactly make these type of ad libs. So first we are using auto tune to tune it really hard, and as you can see the retune speed is set to 0. Then I'm using Elastic Pitch, which is a formant shifting and pitch shifting plugin. Here, actually, the y-axis shows the pitch and the x-axis shows the timbre or the formants. So I'm using just the x-axis and I am formatting it down. Then I'm using some overdrive to give it some distortion. Some Valhalla plate. Now this is a trick I can show you guys. If your distortion sounds too harsh, just like here, we are using the plate to absorb all of that harsh distortion. So that's without and that's with. It's just absorbing all of that. Then I'm using saturator to add more distortion. 2 EQs, I don't know why, but then I have this RC20 over here. And I'm using the noise generator and the digital to actually give it that retro vibe. Really nice. So without it and with it. Really game changing. Then I'm using a Valhalla delay on the coast. Perfect verb preset. Put it in a space and finally topping it off with a Valhalla vintage verb. At cathedral mode, 20% mix. I have these another ad libs over here. Now these ad-libs sound like this. So essentially I'm repeating. So just another some of these filler ad-libs to transition into the next section, and I'm repeating the same thing from the start. Then moving on to the chorus, we are introduced to our first drums, and let's have a listen on how these drums sound like. So first of all, I have this snap over here. It sounds like this. Now I'm using this plugin called Texture, and this is such a great plugin to give it anything, any amount of texture. Like for example, I'm using the guitar scrap, and this is essentially what it's adding. Then I'm adding some echo to give it some delay effect. Then just a couple of EQing, and I'm using another loop over here. And I'm boosting this tone very much. So it's making it really tonal. Then I'm using Digitalis. This is a plugin which is doing all the windows over here. It's making it sound really old and retro. Such a great plugin. I'm using this preset called Crunchy, and I'm again using OTT to bring out all of the high end that we just added. It's just a really good technique to add high end to your stuff. Then I'm adding the famous, I think famous, Wicked Pluck. I'll show you how to make the wicked pluck someday, but yeah, if you want to see how I made this sound, just let me know. Then the dark up remains the same, the reese remains the same, the bells are same, and I added this choir. This is such a nice gothic arp that I have added. And yeah, I'm just let me show you the processing. So first of all, I'm EQing these frequencies out to make space for the vocal. Then I'm using thermal to add some distortion to it. Removing the same frequencies because thermal added some from its own. Again, removing the frequencies. Then I'm using this thing called ML distance, and it's actually a panner from front to you, especially. So it takes the vocal away from you and close to you. And I'm using two LFOs, and the first LFO is actually controlling the awareness, or should I say how far it is from you. And the second vocal LFO is actually automating the left and right. So both of them combined make the vocal go like that, as you can see in the plugin itself. Then I'm using some Haas effect to make the whole choir wide. Then I've added this, I don't know, fucked up thing that I have. It's actually a guitar, and I have put various sorts of processing on it, and this is how it sounds. Then I've added some ambience. Because we have to now build stuff up. Then I've added this vocal drone, and I'm using autopan to give that hovering effect. Then I have another ambience. Sounds like a siren thingy. Then I have some effects, transition effects, to smoothly transition from the verse to the chorus. Then I have these glitches. These are essentially my favorite thing in the entire track. This effect and the codec effect on the synths combined with the glitches actually sell that transition effect. I have some more glitches to transition from the chorus to the build. Sounds like this. Sounds so good. Then in the build, we have some of these rising effects, and they sound like this. This final riser to match the vocals itself. Then I have some of these harmonies. I don't know if they are doing something, but I think I just wanted to make the build vocals sound very full, so I did that. This is how the build vocal sounds all together. Then we are moving on to the build up drums. First of all, we have this build loop over here, and this is how it sounds without any effects. Then I have a parallel aggressor, which is adding some parallel compression to it, making it just hit a more harder and the transients a bit more present. Then some tonal shaping EQ to boost the mids and some higher mids. Then I have the smart compressor. Now I don't use this compressor much often, but I just want to try how the new compressor sounds, so I just used it. This roar preset named Drums Noisy. It's just adding a little bit of noise to the drums. Then I have this transient shaper, which is DS10, and I'm boosting the attack. Yeah, so that the drums cut through the mix a bit better. Then I have this auto filter to filter in the drums from the starting, so they come in nice and slow and smoothly. And what I'm doing is I'm actually using the morph section down there, yeah, to convert it from a low pass filter to a high pass filter, and makes it just makes the drum disappear so nicely. Then I have these Barker drums. Now, why I named them the Barker drums? Because they are inspired by Travis Barker and the new drums that he's been making. This is how they sound dry. So they are really stretched out, because the original sample sounds like this. So I'm actually half timing it. To give it that destroyed feeling, I'm using a pedal distortion. Then I'm using EQ, some Haas effect to get it on the sides and not interfere with our vocal, and same filtering as we did to the verse drums or the drums above. And that's essentially the whole build. Now, another thing that I just want to show you before the drop is in the second chorus, in the second verse, I have this guitar. This is just a filler element, not doing too much. I have this roar, giving it some distortion, an EQ, then another roar, then some filtering, and then a utility. I also have this sex guitar because, yeah, it sounds like that. Now this is the guitar texture and sounds so good. Have a listen. It's almost like a square lead, and how I made it, this is how it sounds without any effects. And then I added thermal on the Wicked Shred preset, Wicked. So this is how it sounds. Then I have EQ'd it and using the same two washout tracks from Virtual Riot. And on the vocal over here, here's where the latter three effects come in. The redux, the telephone vocal. So you can see I am using the pedal distortion to distort it really hard and using the filters to not make it that, crunchy and disturbing. And yeah, that's it for the build and everything. Now let's move to the drop. So first, let's have a listen on how it sounds. Okay, so if you've streamed the track, it's great. If you haven't, just go check it out. It's available everywhere. So that's the kick and the snare, or should I say a clap. It's a pretty simple pattern, and let's see how I made it. The kick actually consists of two samples. One sample is for the body of the kick, and it sounds like this. And then we have a transient layer. Both of them together are going through a compressor, glue compressor, and another compressor, which on the polished punchy drum bus. And I have a bass lane. Now, this is a great plugin if you want a nice wide low end. You just set your frequency over here. Just mix in the side harmonics. Let me just make it really aggressive to tell you how it sounds. So now you can hear how it's adding side information to the kick and making it nice and wide. For the clap, I also have 3 layers. All of 3 them are going through some fresh air for a nice shiny top end, and at last they're getting clipped so that the peaks remain in control. Then I have this reversed kick. And reversed kicks are so good if you want to add impact in your drums. I mean, listen to it without the reverse kick and then with the reversed kick. Then we have some cymbals over here. They are sidechained to the kick and snare using the Kickstart plugin. And then I have a plugin called Texture, and as I've told you, Texture is used for layering nice any sound on it. For example, here I'm layering this tambourine sound on top of it. It's really subtle, but it just makes it more interesting. Then I have this Haas effect, which just makes the whole cymbals wide and full. Then I have these fills over here, and this is how the drop drums sound all together. And now let's check out the main thing, which is the drop bass. I'm calling it the glitch growl. Let's see how it sounds. So how I made this, and basically all the sounds in the drop, is that I took a sample from the Mood Kismet sample pack. I put them in a granulator, and then what I did is messed with the position, scan, and everything. So first of all, I added the EQ, boosted some low, cut some mud, and give it some more mid end. Then I'm using the 3 band crossover and splitting the mid, high, and low signal. On the low signal, what I'm doing is I'm again adding the bass lane to make it more nice and wide. So you can clearly hear the harmonics. On the mid signal, I'm panning it to the right. And same I'm doing with the high signal, because what happens is when you granulate, sometimes it just messes with the panning of your sound. So that's why I'm using, as you can hear, I'm using it to center the sound. Then I have this rift, and I'm using it to give it that nice and digital distortion. Then I have another rift, and I think that I am automating it in some section and using it as a variation for the first glitch sound. As you can see, yeah, I'm automating it here, and this is how it sounds. Then I'm using thermal And I'm using this preset called chill mixed bass, and I think it's some sort of reverb to put it in a space. Yep, it's a reverb, sounds really nice. And then I'm using this EQ to give it some tonal shaping, and I'm using this GM audio high frequency limiter. It's like Soothe but just for the high frequencies. It's just make it less harsh. So this is what it's removing, how it sounds. So this is before and this is afterwards. I think it's just much easier on the ears. Then I'm using this auto pan bass and it sounds like this. So it's just a nice wide layer to fill up for the glitch growl. Great together. I mean, check it out. Then I'm using these Moore Kismet basses from a sample pack and they just sound so good. So what I'm essentially trying to do is I'm trying to make a call and response pattern where the glitch growl calls for it and these all sounds respond. You didn't hear anything because the glitches are supposed to be the call for the second response. So yeah, that's why. Then I have these blown out basses over here from the Levitate sample pack. And then the main sound, yeah, it's again from the granulator thingy that I did. And as you can see, it doesn't have a lot of processing, but this is actually interesting. This color support. So you can see this is how it sounds without it. It sounds a bit empty, but now with the color support, which sounds like this. And how I made it is, let's check it out. So this is how it sounds without any processing. So first of all, I used an EQ to clean out all of the low end. Then I'm using a shifter and I'm shifting it down minus 265 Hertz. And it's been automated to go up. So it's like an octave jump, but then the snappies over here is actually making it that color bassy feel. Check it out. So good. Then some EQ to make space for the main bass. Yeah, just making space for the bass above. Some drift. So this is giving it like trance effect. Yeah, that trance gate effect. Then I'm using a Pro Q3 to again make spaces for the bass and some cleaning, some Haas effect to get it on the sides. And I'm using auto pan with some phase adjustment to make it wide and give it a new rhythm, which sounds like this. Then I have some glitches guitars. So this is how it sounds dry. And this is how it sounds with the effects. I just have this guitar rig over here and on the preset called Clean Air, you can see the settings over here. Nothing much is going on. It doesn't sound that different, but it's just there to act as a call around for the call, response, and then a call around from the guitar. Then I have these little ear candies to just fill the drop. And how I made these ear candies is that I put the main drop into Portal and then I did like a jam to get various different sounds and then I chopped them up and put them in various sections of the drop. So this is how the ear candies and the main basses sound together. Now, it sounds really empty because the main things are these glitches as well. First of all, I have this mellow glitch fill. As you can hear, it's just a very stretched out version of something. I don't even remember it, what it was. And then I have these glitches over here. You can see it gets like bomb bomb effect from this auto filter that I have over here. More glitches. I love this one. It's from the Moore Kismet sample pack. Shout out to Moore Kismet, man. More glitches over here. This is very nice. It's like very scrunchy. I don't know what to call it. More glitches. Just filling up the drop and making it sounds good. Just bit of noise. Together they sound like this. This one is actually so good. Then I have these vocal shots over here. And that's how the whole bass group sounds together. I don't have any synths here, just a limiter over here to catch the peaks. Yeah, just a couple of dBs to take care of the final limiter. Then coming to the samples, I have this breath sound over here and it sounds like this. You can see there's a bunch of processing it on it, but it's just to make it more open and fresh. Then I have this another baby sample I called. It's just panned left to right. Baby. Yeah, you can hear it. Then I have these drop FXs and make the drop fuller. Now I didn't want too much FXs, but just a little of them to make it fuller. And I think this is what I added. Then I have these some risers. Again, just building tension to transition out of the drop because it's just such an hectic and chaotic drop. Then I have these pre-drop vocals and they sound like this. And if I unfreeze it, this is how I made them. This is how I sound without any effects. So what I'm doing is I'm pitching it down, -3 semitones. So it gets that darker pitch down effect. And then what I'm doing is if I'm making an audio rack and I have two chains over here, first of them is the dry signal. And then I have this low chain over here with elastic pitch, snap heap, EQ, and autopan. And what the elastic pitch is doing is again making a sound like that. Then I'm using snap heap and I'm using Nasco's growl preset to make a sound like this. And I'm using the EQ8 to clean up. And then the autopan to pan it left and right really, really fast. I think it's sick how it sounds. And then I'm using this VHS Rect preset from Roar. And I'm automating dry wet in. So you can see it's giving that really nice crunchy effect. Then we have this distort preset from Overdrive. Just adding more distortion. So that's it. That's basically the whole first drop. And the second drop also sounds very, very similar. There's just one fake out. And let me just show you how the fake out sounds.
Drop it.
So it's just one sample called Drop It.
Drop it.
Yep, similar processing, distortion, making it dirty. Very nice. And then we transition out into the outro, which is so, so good. Check it out. And one thing that I'm doing in this project is that I'm automating the BPM from 122 to 90, and it just gives it such a nice effect of release from all that hectic and chaotic drops. So that's it. That's how I made Blame. Thank you for watching this breakdown, and if you like how I did this one, you can check out the full breakdown on my Patreon. The link is in the description. Go sub to it. Thank you. Have a nice day. Another thing is that I did a voiceover to this whole thing because I live in so horrible conditions that I'm not able to record everything. So yeah, if you guys support it, maybe one day I will. Okay, that's it. Bye.